And welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this afternoon. Brendan Rodgers has spoken to the media. He has spoken to the media this afternoon. He has spoken about his future. And he didn't just talk about it for a couple of minutes. He spoke about it at length. Brendan Rodgers said, obviously he's confirmed that talks have taken place. But Brendan Rodgers has said it is not just a one-way street. It is Brendan Rodgers has put the PLC on a warning, and he's asked to show their ambition. Brendan Rodgers said that he wants to be at Celtic. He said I would be at Celtic for a 3-year minimum. I have said that since the beginning. I've said, and I've stuck to it ever since he came back in. I said that Brendan Rodgers will stay for the minimum 3 years. Having just watched the interview with Brendan Rodgers, it's a man that is not being met by the ambition that he wants for Celtic. Brendan Rodgers said, look, it is not about me. It's not about what I want. Brendan Rodgers said, I want the best for the club. I want to take the club as far as we can. If it is just about maintaining, now this is Brendan Rodgers' own words. If it's just something to maintain, I am not the manager for Celtic. It'll be someone else. But to build, grow, develop and push, then of course I love being at Celtic. Brendan Rodgers has addressed the future. He has told the fans he's been open and honest. Paul Baird, absolutely no spin whatsoever from this one. Mo, I think he was open and honest. I'm being perfectly honest. In my opinion, I think he was open and honest with the current situation. I think that we all know the way that Celtic are. I've said this. 3 years coming into Celtic, I always said that it would be 3 years minimum. I think that Celtic and Brendan Rodgers are a perfect fit. I think that Brendan Rodgers wants to make us better in the Champions League. He's said that. And it's about the ambition of the club. Do the club want to push the boat out, get in better players so that they can get slightly better in the Champions League? Because let's face it, that's where we're going to be tested. It's not winning the SPFL that Brendan Rodgers wants to be remembered for. It's about taking this club as far as he can in the Champions League. And can he ultimately do that? Can the board give him the players and fulfill his ambition? Fulfill his ambition to take Celtic forward. Now, to the people that... so who would be his replacement? Well, that's a conversation for another day. What Brendan Rodgers did say, he did say that he will get... And the Scottish media, you've got to love the Scottish media. The Scottish media are throwing in the question, will this be disruptive to the season ahead? And Brendan Rodgers says, no, it won't be for the players. It won't be for me. You can already see it. The Scottish media will pick away all season at this to try and force the issue and to see if Brendan Rodgers is going to jump ship early. He won't. I have said since pre-season, I have said that Brendan Rodgers will want to win the treble this year. He will want to go out on a high. James Forrest will want to finish his career on a high. Celtic will win the treble and Brendan Rodgers will walk out the door because the board, the PLC, do not meet his ambition for taking the club forward in a European context. If the board's ambition is just to qualify for the Champions League and maintain just being in the competition, if that's good enough for the board, Brendan Rodgers said, I'm not your man. I want to see how far we can push Celtic. We did fantastically well with our small budget, Brendan said in his interview. He wants to try and take us to the next level. He said that we brought in players last season that helped us in the Champions League. He said, as a manager, I want to bring in players and I want to get the players in earlier. All managers would. He also said, I'm maybe not convincing the board enough to bring in the players I want. He's telling the board, he's telling them who he wants, and the board are not moving fast enough. It's the same old Celtic. Manager replacement, any British manager replacement is pointless for us. We need a European manager with some ambition and knows European football, says Michelle. Yeah, you're right, Michelle. So winning the treble isn't good enough, Baz. Winning the treble, I think that is... Yes, it is good enough. But shouldn't we be looking towards Europe to trying to do something in Europe? Is it just about turning up in Europe and then taking the money and running? That's no ambition. That's not ambition. Do you know, you've got a team across the city that go on about a 9 in a row that they won in the 1990s. We've been dominant in Scottish football. We've been dominant in Scottish football for the best part of 25 years now. Do you know, is just winning the league year in, year out enough? And I think what Brendan Rodgers said, if that's your ambition, do you know, it's get a Ronnie Dyler manager. And that's basically what Brendan Rodgers said today. The talks, it looks like there was obviously, well, he admitted that there was the talks. He said that there has been talks and discussions and there isn't an offer on the table. As it stands, Celtic have not offered Brendan Rodgers a new contract. Now, there was one of the media guys asked if the current situation with any players, are they waiting until Celtic get into the Champions League? Brendan Rodgers said no. He said no. Any players that we have had discussions with, that's not an objective. We don't have to get into the Champions League for the player to come to the club. So there's obviously a lot going on in the background, and Brendan Rodgers has given a little bit of information to put the fans at ease on his own personal situation with the contract. He was very open and honest, I thought. And I thought, do you know what? He's right. Do you know, stay here for the 3 years. If the board don't want to get better in a European context and they don't want to bring in a player, Ange Postecoglou did the same. Ange Postecoglou said to the media, what's the difference in bringing in a £2 million player and turn them into a £10 million player? You can bring in a £20 million player and turn them into a £50 million player. You could sell them on for. Brendan Rodgers wants to bring in better quality players to make us better for the Champions League. Do you know, and if you're happy just winning the league in Scotland, and if you're happy, I think we've all, as older fans that have been around for a bit of a while, that can remember the sad old days of the 1990s when another club bought the titles. We've been successful, we've been brilliant over the last 25 years. But if the club want to get us better and get a decent run in Europe, there's another Scottish club that's been close to a couple of finals in the European context, and we haven't. We've just not brought the players in to help us get, you know, better in Europe. So for me, I'll be completely devastated if he does go, because it will prove me right once again that this season's been about managed decline and banking as much cash as we can. And I hope it's not. Money means nothing. It's all about the quality. So if they cost 3 or 4 million, so be it. Yeah, and it's more than obvious now. It's more than apparent that Brendan Rodgers believes that he's not convincing the board enough that he needs those players, or the board, Michael Nicholson, is just not acting fast enough. There's a power struggle going on at Celtic, and I've said this before. And there will only be one winner, and it will be the board. And as fans, we'll go through another season talking rubbish. Baz, how am I talking rubbish, mate? Go on, tell me. Tell me in the comments. We're on the verge of going through another season that could be as bad as the COVID season. There you go. I've said it. Rodgers has told the board what he wants. It's up to the board now. Yeah, and he's come out in public and done it. That's all I'm saying. I'm just repeating what Brendan Rodgers has said. But I'm talking rubbish, so never mind. This says Mo, who falls out everyone in the chat. Money means nothing yet. When it comes to the club, I think that we need the board and the manager to be in synchronisation, and they're not at the current moment. That's for sure. We're definitely not at the current moment. Will we get the players in? Brendan Rodgers asked. Yeah, hopefully we do before the end of the window. What do you make today? You lose long-term business when you refuse to invest. Yep. How's it an overreaction? It's not an overreaction. It's talking facts about what's actually happened in the media conference that Brendan Rodgers has just given. It's factual evidence about what has just happened in the interview. So it's not an overreaction. It's what Brendan Rodgers just said. Go and watch the Brendan Rodgers 22-minute long interview. Go and watch it. Paul Tisdale was brought in to oversee how we deal with stuff. He must be laughing all the way with the transfers. I think that he's only laughing one way, and that's to the bank. That's for sure. We've got the strongest squad in Scotland. That means nothing. And we're chatting, Mo, that means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. You can have, if you're happy with just winning the league in Scotland and turning up in the Champions League every year, that's fine. It's all about standards of what you want for the club. I can remember a time where Celtic were ambitious in Europe and wanted to be ambitious in Europe. This board doesn't want to be ambitious in Europe. Brendan Rodgers is working his ticket, says Mo. It's all about opinions. That's why it's called the One Celtic Fans View. When Brendan Rodgers came back, they thought they had sorted these problems out. Mere fool me. Yeah, Les, I think that we all thought when Ange Postecoglou came in and when there was a new direction, what will the board, if you don't qualify for the Champions League and lose at IPOX? Exactly. Square Sausage Mick says Mo's talking pish. Strongest league. Scotland doesn't help us out in Scotland. So what else can we achieve? There was a time that Celtic would go into Europe with a belief that we could try and do something. If we're just going to go into Europe and Mo loves the board. Mo's a board lover. He's a Tory. He's a Tory in disguise on the channel. Back in the early 90s, it was easier to get deals done because money they went for. I don't think it's anything to do with money. I seriously don't think it's anything. No, it has to do with money, and it's to do with the fact that the board will not pay the going rate for players. They will not get the deals done quick enough. And Brendan Rodgers has basically came out and said that today. So yeah, that's my take on it. Let's see by the end of the window. I don't think the end of the window is the end of the conversation, mate. It's not. The end, you're Peter Lawwell in disguise. That wouldn't surprise me. I think we're in one of those situations where at the end of the transfer window, the conversation doesn't stop there. The conversation will not stop there because there's been a disagreement on the way forward for the club. You'll have Brendan Rodgers, who wants to bring in a certain type of player to make us better for the Champions League. See if you take care of the Champions League, right? And say we get to last 16, last 8. That's improving us as a club. That's ambitious. The odd season you might get to the last 4. That's fucking top level stuff. That's what you want to achieve. That's walking out tall as a Celtic fan and as a manager and go, yes, we've taken this club to a level that we've never been at for such a long time. But no, a lot of people are saying, fuck it, just win the league in Scotland, mate. That's it. That's all we want you to do. We just want you to win the league. Just win the league and maybe the odd cup or two, and that's it. That's fine. Brendan Rodgers' exact words. If it is just something to maintain, I am not the manager for Celtic. It will be someone else. To build and to grow and develop or push, then of course, I love being at Celtic. Brendan Rodgers' own words. About the contract situation. He doesn't want to just win the league every year and win a treble. He wants us to push in Europe to try and get into the last 16, the last 8, maybe the last 4. And if the board don't have the same ambitions, he's every right to say, look, I said I would be here for 3 years. Brendan Rodgers also said in the press conference today, people had me walking out the door last season. I told you I would be here for 3 years minimum. Brendan Rodgers' own words. His own words. I think that he's thrown down the gauntlet to the board. Meet my aspirations on where you seen Celtic going, or go and get another Ronnie Dyler type manager in, and then you'll see next season when we bring in another manager and there's quarter of the stadium doesn't sell out in season tickets because they don't believe the ambition that the board have. I don't think that after this season we'll be able to attract a top level manager that has ambitions to take us forward in Europe, because they will have seen the way that Ange could only take you so far when it comes to Europe. They'll see the fact that Brendan Rodgers, another top level managers will then start looking at Celtic and go, nah, it's not worth it. I could go to a club abroad. That have a bit more ambition. And this is what it comes down to. It's now coming down to ambition. Personally, I want a bit more than top sprinkled with a trophy. Yeah. Football is Life said, Rodgers telling all of us he's agreed with us. The PLC are not fit for purpose. Letting them get away from Celtic is a shambles. This transfer window is it being handled the way it's been handled. Yeah, I think that a lot of the fans are in agreement, and I think that Brendan Rodgers, there was no spin on it. There was no trying to blame the board. He's just talked about. It's one of the most frank interviews that Brendan Rodgers, and he'll try and put a tin lid on it now. He'll say that he said Brendan Rodgers going forward will only want to be focused on the season ahead. He spoke about his contract situation. He's opened up about transfers. He's opened up about ambition. And he'll say I've said my piece. We move on. And that's the way that and that's why I like Brendan Rodgers, because he's the type of manager that will just come out and say it and tell it as it is. And some people might not like that. Some people will say, "Oh, he's deflecting." Do you know? And the Huns all over it saying that he's walking away because he's shiting himself. Come on, how many Rangers managers has he seen off? How many Sevco managers has he seen off since they? Anyway, Rodgers calling out the board is a good thing. It proves that he cares about progression and is not just being a puppet for Peter Lawwell. Says football is life. Exactly. Exactly. And I think that Stephen Mitchell said Brendan Rodgers say will stay if the board spend the cash. What the board playing at. I don't think it's just spending the cash. It's about showing ambition on where the club. I mean, Brendan Rodgers said, "Look, it's not just about the board giving me a new contract. It's what I want from the club. It's the vision." And if the vision isn't the same for the club from the manager, if the vision isn't the same from the board, if the vision from the board is all about, you know what, let's just win the Scottish League. Peter Lawwell, 20 years ago, Peter Lawwell spoke about the dominance of Scottish football. That was the objective. Peter Lawwell sat every single year at the AGM and he says our objective is the domination of Scottish football. Go back and you'll find interviews where I'm saying it. It is all about... No, it's not true, Lanky. It's not true at all. I think somebody was just at it at the beginning of the chat. There's nothing I've been hearing to say that it is true, but it's not. Brendan Rodgers has basically come out and said what all the fans want the club to do. And fair play to him. Fair play to him to say, do you know what? I said I'd be here at the end of the 3 years. If the club do offer me a contract, well, why would the Green Brigade come out and say that they've got... There's a load of nonsense. I'll text somebody just now. and we'll find out. Send me Kaiser. I'm just wait a minute. I'm just getting a message just now. 3 months suspended. It's suspended for 3 months. They've got a ban, but it's suspended for 3 months. So this is breaking news. This is coming from my contact. It's suspended for 3 months. The Green Brigade are not banned for the game this weekend. It's a suspended ban. It's a suspended ban. It is not a ban this weekend. It is a suspended ban. So they are not banned for this weekend. They are suspended. If they do anything within the next 3 months, so next incident, they'll be done for and banned. So if they have another incident, I said that this would happen, they will get a ban. Who issues the ban? Celtic PLC issues the ban. I'm just getting some confirmation about yeah, that's true, mate. That's up to them. Wait a minute, I'm just getting Jesus, I knew this would happen. They'll be banned before the Rangers game. I did say this. I did say, someone asked me the other day, when would the Green Brigade be banned next? And I said it'll probably be the week before the Rangers game. The club do this. They give them enough rope to hang themselves, as they say. It's probably a bad... Yeah, that was... You don't... It's bad saying that. Because... Yeah, it is to do with Palestine flags. They're not suspended, and yeah, it is becoming a joke. They're not suspended for the game this weekend. So anyone that says that they are suspended for the game this week, it is fake. And because it did Palestine. Oh, the madness. Right, so that is the breaking news. The Green Brigade aren't banned. Yeah, Kaiser, I've seen it. I'm speaking to somebody just now. Yeah. But they are not banned for this weekend. Anyway, moving on to all things Celtic. We've got over 200 votes. Do you think that Brendan Rodgers will be the next manager next season? 61% now think no. 39% say yes. I used to say a suspended sentence was a win. Oh, jeez. What's on 67 Hail Hail Big Rab? Because I've just been talking to an original Green Brigade member. So I'd rather take his word for it than what I've just been told. That's all I'm saying. What are they stockpiling the money for? Says Football is Life. I think it's mainly for leaving the area of the flags. Yeah, it is. It's not for flying them in general. It's for leaving section 111 and moving to other parts of the ground to fly Palestine flags. Is what they're being given the suspended ban for. Cheers, Ryan. It's amazing what some sunshine you could do. Rodgers will go in January. No, he won't. James Rodgers will be here to the end of the season unless Celtic push him out the door. Payroll, please. Announced that they're going. If the PLC announced that they were going, it would be the best moment in the club's history. Unreal. Anyway, the big Celtic news of the day is obviously the fact that Brendan Rodgers has spoken to the media. In Brendan Rodgers' own words, he was talking about his future, and he says, there's no further update. For the sake of honesty and clarity, said Brendan Rodgers, I can tell you exactly where we are at. I said when I first came here, I would do 3 years minimum. People had me out the door at the end of last season, going various places. I said last season I would be here 200%. He said 100%. I said 150%. He then went to 200%. He said, I've had a conversation with Dermot and Michael, had a conversation over the summer on where we're at and where it sits with myself and everything else. I'm happy here, but there are conditions. I want to be able to improve better. I'm not the type of manager that's just here to maintain. Brendan Rodgers said, if it's just something to maintain, I'm not the manager for Celtic. It'll be someone else. But if you want to build, grow, develop, push, then of course, I love being at Celtic. He addressed his future head on, and I think it was the most open, honest and frank that he has been for a long time. It is now a case that he has pushed this over to the PLC. He's asked the PLC, he's pushed it onto their table and said, look, if you want to bring in just a couple of £1 million players and just win the league and then be happy just to get into the Champions League, maybe the board are saying, do you know what, maybe we'll wait till after. And maybe you are right. Maybe some of the fans are right. Maybe the board are thinking, we'll wait till we see if we're in the Champions League, then make the decision. Brendan Rodgers is saying, no, I want the players in now so we can get into the Champions League and be better in the Champions League. If that's not your thinking, if that's not the way that you want to go, I am not your man. Brendan Rodgers is staying for 4 seasons. No, he's not. I think he's off. Anyway, if the Green Brigade are banned, there's no atmosphere that impacts the team. Don't even start thinking that far ahead, because the same person that just confirmed the situation with the Green Brigade did text me this morning and saying that he could see this being as bad as the COVID season with what's going on at Celtic. Anyway, well said, Baz. The board need to go and get better ambience. People that take the club forward, just saying, says Paul Cassidy. Yeah, I think that there's a hard line between ambition and profitability of the business and the club, and it looks like that Celtic are going down the profitability route and sustainability, which isn't a bad thing. But if you're just wanting a manager just to tide over, Brendan Rodgers is saying, look, I've done my 3 years. He will want to go out a success. I still stand by that Brendan Rodgers' target, the team target, is a treble this season. I still say that. I said it before today, I said it 2 weeks ago, and I still say it. I think that we'll win the treble this year, and it'll be a Wim Jansen moment at Celtic. That is the impact that this will have. I can remember the day when Wim Jansen walked out of Celtic because of similar issues, and I think that Brendan Rodgers will do the same. Anyway, let's close this poll down. It is, do you think that Brendan Rodgers will be Celtic manager next season? 229 votes. Complete, and 57% say no and 42% say yes. Can the Celtic board tell me a better manager that we can get out there? The board has no ambition going forward. The Huns will push us all the way. Dermot did say his way of spending less brought in equals happy, spending more and taking equals misery. Do you know, I think that We're at a crossroads again. And it's a crossroads that we've been at many times over the last 20 years. And it's a crossroads of you go through the period of managed decline. You reduce the wage bill, you increase profitability, you keep the club winning. But it's not going forward in a European context. And I think that that's all that Brendan Rodgers wants. And a lot of the fans want. And on that note, try and have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, because we're back to business this weekend. There will be a live tomorrow morning, and then we'll look at some stuff tomorrow. It is typical Celtic. Gorbel says he's not bothered who the manager is. He's not bothered who the manager is. I'm not too sure about that. Were you a season ticket holder during the Ronnie Dyler years? Baz, open your eyes. If you think the club is for Rodgers, he will walk. Yep. Don't think it's going to matter who will go change unless the board wakes up and gets their shit together, says Michelle. The board want Rodgers to stay, then they will spend the cash. Does anyone think that? Maida starts at centre forward. Who's playing on the wings? There's so many things to talk about, but just not today. On that note, have a fantastic evening, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.